going on, Rob?
Hello, Tim.
We are starting our second series together based on some of your amazing thoughts. We're talking about your 10 tenets of transparency. Isn't that awesome?
It is awesome. And it's fun to do this again.
So excited. So excited. So last month, you did for the WiLD Conversation a series on risky leadership topics. One of them was on transparency, which is what we want to go into because as you were speaking to and you were going through these ideas, I thought, wow, as most businesses right now are heading down that path of what does the economic outlook look like? How do I need to prepare? What does that mean for people, processes, capital, etc.? There's a struggle with how transparent should we be? And you talked about the risks of transparency, and I just think it's such a timely topic.
Yeah, me too. A few years ago, I had a friend. I was floating on the Frio River, I think it's called, in Texas, in a kayak, and he said, people, these friends say something profound to you where it sticks. And he said, Rob, you are all about the conversations or the things that we whisper out loud that scream out inside of us. And so I thought of that when I was thinking about us having this conversation about transparency, like the fact that we do have things that we whisper out loud that scream out inside of us, that I think most people can relate to that. I think there's a lot of issues around transparency that are part of that, right?
For sure.
The choice. And so I came to mind. So this is fun.
All right. So our first two tenets: transparency involves light, and transparency asks the question, am I seeing clearly enough? What do you got here, man?
Okay, so I feel like my job is just to kind of light it up a little bit. Then I want to hear what your thoughts are, because and anybody that's watching this, we don't prepare for this, so it's like this is not scripted. But I did.
We only have the 10 tenets.
Right, that's all we have. We have that. Then let's go where we go. The first one, transparent involves light. I did a talk a few years ago on light, and it was really interesting. It was about, leadership stuff. And I got, Tim, I don't even know if I didn't mention this to you before or ever. It got me thinking a lot about light and doing research on light. And by the way, do you know that if you look up, when I started searching on light, what came up? Cameras. like the Kodak website came up. And it was interesting because I never thought of it this way, that people who are in the camera business know that they're not in the camera business. They're in the light business.
It's true.
Because it's all about light refraction. So it was interesting when I started looking up this whole thing around light, because you look up transparent and it literally, like the physical and the physics, the definition of transparent involves this refraction, or this what light is doing related to seeing through something. And one of the things that I unpacked a little bit was that idea that light is almost always in our world intentionally inserted, and that it's not something that sometimes we just take it for granted, but a lot of times with light, it's when we turn the lights on, that we see clearly. And it's interesting because I think about the courage sometimes to turn the lights on the things that we whisper out loud. That would include both our beauty and our redemption, and also our brokenness, the places where we not only messed up, but messed it up for other people. And shedding light on that is a really interesting part of this whole transparency thing. That's just what I wanted to kind of kick off. I couldn't not deal with it because it's in the definition.
No, I love that, because how often do we wonder, there's a term like, let's shed light on a topic, right?
Yeah.
How much is too much light, right? Because here's the thing, right? Like, we all work in degrees of transparency, or sometimes degrees of honesty. We don't lie, but maybe we don't tell the truth, or we let people see some of us but not experience all of us for varying reasons, right?
Yeah.
And so there's, as you would say, there's a tension there, right? How do we deal with it?
There is. And I think this is what troubles me, because you and I talk about things that trouble us,
Yep.
is when people talk about transparency and say, we need transparent leaders. Because I would tend to agree with, we need sometimes more transparent leaders. But like the real story is that we also hold that intentional light. Like imagine a flashlight that we hold it sometimes in solidarity with other people. You know what I mean? So there's things that you and I may know about each other that we're going to keep in solidarity with one another. And in this, and I assume that's always happening. Like no one's going to tell me everything, because not only is it something they may not want to share, but it may be something that would out someone else with whom they hold that, where it's just not ready yet. And so I think it's interesting, right? Where we shed light and when and how much.
And I mean, it's also a combination of purpose. What is my purpose in this moment? And also grace and acceptance. Is there acceptance for who I am and what I'm going to share? Is there grace for me when you realize that I'm not always the person that I want you to think I am?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a vulnerability there, right?
There is. I had a quote from a family member. This kind of killed me. I know it's kind of a different topic related to light, but he's someone who's been through some struggles. And he said, I had sent him a note about, I mentioned this in a text. I said, brokenness invites brokenness, and redemption invites redemption. I know we're talking about leadership, but that was the thing that I kind of felt like I was supposed to send to him. And this is what he said back. That was pretty profound. He said, if we don't ever get moments of being broken, then how does the light get in?
That's true, right? Because like our cracks in our outer shell.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about light, not only does it provide, sight, but if you think about light, like from the sun, it's actually a cleanser. It eradicates bacteria and fungus and things like that, right? And so there's that whole spin on it. But what about that question? What about that question? Am I seeing clearly enough?
Oh man. So this one, I got to give full credit to David L. McKenna, my dad. And my dad led in 3 different institutions. He had the great, great privilege and honor of leading in 3 different places, in university kinds of places. And I was talking to him about this. My dad's in his 90s now, and this was really a big deal to him. He kept coming back to this question when it comes to transparency, because I always tended to, even when I was preparing for that talk, I was thinking a lot about, do we see the leader clearly? And my dad went straight to this. He went straight to, am I seeing it clearly? And this question that he was kind of inviting me into about this question that I might ask myself is, am I seeing as a leader or a person on a team or wherever, am I seeing things clearly? Because we just kind of assume what we see is what we see.
Right.
But we might be looking through a cloudy window.
I mean, and my group at the WiLD Conversation, they'll tell you I went off on this for like probably the entire 12 minutes. Because I was like, I've never thought about my transparency or lack thereof clouds my vision and judgment towards others. Because I want a connection with you. I want a relationship with you. I'm a relational person. We are in relationship as people in the community. But if there's things I'm keeping from you, if there's things I don't think you can handle, if there's things I can't share, that can cloud my judgment towards you.
That is so good. That is fascinating. That's a whole, wow. Because I think one of the things that my dad went on to describe as well, as he said, I think one of his points was, if I'm not settled myself, can I see it clearly? And to your point, can I even see you clearly? And it's interesting because it felt like when he said it to me, it felt like a heavy focus on myself, but it's questioning, right? So if I'm not settled, if I'm reactive, if I'm at a point where I'm moving so fast that all the lines are blurred, am I seeing it clearly? And then how that affects other people.
It's crazy. Our entire web of influence is affected by that. And you see this a lot. I see this a lot with people who are in government, the military, who have a job they are forbidden by law to talk about. And it impacts the rest of their life because they have to involve themselves with the rest of life in the context of what can I not say? And that I think is an interesting place to leave this, don't you think?
Yes. That's good. That's good. Man, this topic is
It's gonna be awesome.
it's awesome. Yeah.
All right. See you next time.
Okay.